All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. Be sure to check out our YouTube page. You can find that at Beyond the Arc CBS. Please subscribe, hit the like button, leave us a comment. We're going to have a whole bunch of videos up there from today's show, including this next topic. Today was the deadline for Bronny James to decide if he's in or out of the draft. Turns out that he is going to be staying in the draft. He's not going back to college. I got my own thoughts on this, but Ash, what do you make of this? Did he make the right decision?
I mean, he made a decision that's best for him, but my biggest question then is if he's not going back to college, which the deadline has passed, as you just said, my question would be then why are you only working out for two teams? If you are going into the draft and you want to be a serious draftee, and prior to him entering the draft, there were the rumors that he was leaving USC in part because it just wasn't the right fit, but in part because he also wanted to kind of forge his own legacy. And there was rumors that Ohio State could possibly be in the running to land Bronny. So my question would be if that was the reason or one of the reasons why you wanted to leave USC, then why is it just the Lakers, which is the team your dad plays for, Phoenix, which is the team that allegedly is in the running to get your dad, are the only two teams that you'd be working out for? So obviously Bill can speak more to this than I can, but I would like to see a draftee kind of go through more than two team workouts, is my point.
Ash, you're so right, and this is the big concern I have for Bronny. And I was in Chicago. We discussed this. I thought he was incredibly impressive at the draft combine. Everybody who was around him thought he was incredibly impressive. There is a world, I think, where Bronny can have a successful career, but I think this is the biggest hindrance to his potential success. And I hate to say it, but it's his dad. He is being so stage managed. Because you're right, Ash. The path for him is to go and do visits with every single team that wants to try him out in
Yes.
person, to prove his way with every single team, not just because it expands the field of possible teams, but because this is the path he's going to have to take to be successful. He's not going to, when he gets drafted higher than he should because of his last name, suddenly morph into a guy who's a first round or a second round talent. He is neither a first nor a second round talent. That is a reality from every person that I've talked to, and it's multiple people who have scouted him in person and then who scouted him to whatever degree that really matters at the combine. And so what he's going to have to do, and we've got reports that pile up, right? This notion that he's not going to sign a two-way deal, which means he doesn't want to go back and forth between the NBA and their developmental league. Huge problem. Huge mistake. You
Yeah.
need to be doing that. The idea that you belong on an NBA roster is farcical, not because we don't like Bronny. I like Bronny, and I'm rooting for him, but because he is going to be drafted because of his father, but his father ultimately cannot play for him, cannot be the one who develops him, cannot be the one who makes sure that you go to the drudgery of a lower level team or developmental team. Ash, I think the reason is because LeBron is doing with Bronny what he's done every step of his career. Players that are on his team, whether JJ Redick, who will be the head coach of the Lakers, is going to be the next head coach, he is controlling everything because he can. And normally that's to the service of what LeBron thinks is best for LeBron, so do it. LeBron, I think, is doing this out of love for his son through Rich Paul, who is LeBron's agent, but really his buddy. But it's a mistake. Fathers can make mistakes for their sons when they love them, and I think that's exactly what's happening here.
It is a mistake. I mean, he had 10 invites and he declined 8 of them. He's only visiting with the Lakers and the Suns. I mean, yeah, if everything's on the level here, if we're just talking about a player who wants to get into the NBA and probably projects as a G League guy unless he can graduate to the actual NBA proper, he should be meeting with all these teams, putting himself through all these workouts and proving that, okay, I had a bad freshman year at USC, but that was circumstance and not who I actually am and who I could one day develop into. And so, yeah, that's a red flag. That would be a red flag for me and for any other organization that wants to draft him. But that's probably the point, right? Because what you're doing here is signaling, no, 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 no. We don't want like the majority of teams to take Bronny James. We want a handful of teams that are LeBron pre-approved to take Bronny James. And I think like that's setting him up for a really tough road, right? Because you're slotting him into a team that you've predetermined. And now what happens if he doesn't develop? What happens if he doesn't get to play in the NBA? What happens if, to me, this looks like a Thanasis Antetokounmpo situation where he's in the NBA because of who his brother is, not because he deserves to be in the NBA.
Well, I want
What
to,
if Dad doesn't show up in Phoenix? Sorry, Ash. I was saying, what if Dad doesn't? What if the Suns take him and then Dad doesn't come to the Suns? What happens
I
then?
mean, taking it even a step further, I would be curious then to wonder Because I think we all made great points. If you're going to go ahead and forego going back to school and really invest in the draft and your future as, you know, an NBA player, that's great, that's fantastic. You would wonder why you would put so much stock in two teams unless conversations have already been had that one of these two teams are without a shadow of a doubt going to take you. And Bill, I'd be curious your take as the insider. Is that kind of what the possibility could be? Is there already a verbal handshake type of agreement that, look, you go ahead and tell those other teams you're not interested? It's either going to be Phoenix or it's going to be LA, but one of us are going to take you. And maybe that's why those workouts are only happening with those two teams. This is me being a conspiracy theorist. That's all I'm saying.
No, I think you're right. So I don't
me.
know. Right? LeBron's people, Rich Paul, has not called me up and said, Bill, here's my secret plan. But I'll tell you that other GMs around the NBA, and I'm thinking of a couple in particular who scouted Bronny, but where they draft, they're not going to draft Bronny James, absolutely believe that Bronny's going to go wherever Clutch Sports, which is Rich Paul's agency, wherever they designate he's going to go through Bronny and really Bronny's dad, LeBron. Now, I'll say this. I've posited this to these guys and a few other folks. They would not do what I'm going to suggest. But if I am Sam Presti, who has a lot of picks, maybe not in the first round, out of Phoenix is going to stretch. But if I am that organization, and maybe some other organizations, but the Thunder in particular, Ash, I'm drafting Bronny because he is not good enough to play in the NBA right now. But there's a world where if you develop him properly, and I keep bringing up the Gary Payton II comp, he might be. But the real value of this is LeBron. And the idea LeBron might arrive, might show up. And why not take him? The Thunder have a great history of developing guys. You'll have to go to the G League. That's a part of their deal, as John knows, back and forth, back and forth. And LeBron doesn't have the leverage that he used to. And LeBron's ability to control things is always within the organization in which he plays. LeBron might be overplaying his hand. Rich Paul might be overplaying his hand. If you want LeBron, and that's a different question, I would actually draft Bronny. And I would actually argue that LeBron coming in and being disruptive is harder because you now have the rights to his son. And that is leverage over LeBron James that no one's ever had before. So if LeBron's going to play these Game of Thrones sort of moves, and he is, Ash, if it's me, it's callous. But if I'm a GM, if I'm Sam Presti, I might draft Bronny and say, too bad, he's here. We believe in him. And LeBron, if you want to show up, great. Here are the parameters under which that's going to work.
Yeah, that's the whole point. I mean, like, so they're saying, hey, you know, only the Suns and the Lakers are going to draft Bronny. No, I mean, what? Anybody else could draft Bronny, and then what? Bronny doesn't want to play. Like, what is he going to do? You're going to go to China or something? Like, if you get drafted by Oklahoma City, you're going to the G League or you're going to go play in Europe somewhere. Those are your choices. I mean, they can't really micromanage this thing as much as they're signaling or at least trying to. But I wish the kid well. I think he should have gone back to college, but I wish him well, and I hope it works out for him.